Today we're going to take a look back at one of the biggest blockbuster trades in the past 5 years. Of course, we always analyze trades at the time saying who won the deal. Well, this trade looks a lot different today than it did in the beginning. The Erik Karlsson trade might have hurt Sens fans a lot at the time, but it's really set them up nicely for the future. We'll discuss the deal and the outcome coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today we're taking a look back at one of the bigger trades we've seen in the past few years. The Erik Karlsson trade, sending him from the Ottawa Senators to the San Jose Sharks. I know it was a contentious topic for Senators fans at the time. A generational defenseman who was, at the peak of his career, won multiple Norris trophies, led the Senators while even playing injured all the way to the Eastern Conference Final in 2017. They were one goal away from going to the Stanley Cup Final, where many people thought they would have had an excellent chance at winning the 2017 Stanley Cup had they been able to do battle with the Nashville Predators instead of the Pittsburgh Penguins. That was a heartbreaking defeat for that team, and really that was the last game that team we really seen as we knew it. That kind of shortly thereafter began the dismantling of that team and a number of years of pain for that franchise. Well, now it seems like the pain is starting to come to an end. Things are really moving in a much more positive direction, and a lot of the pieces acquired in this trade are a huge part of that. So I want to take a look back at this trade and kind of analyze what has transpired here. Some of these pieces they received from the Sharks have since been moved as well, and we'll look at what else has come in to kind of do like a little bit of a trade tree, if you will, here, seeing how all these pieces impacted it. But first, let's just do a quick reminder here of what all was involved in this trade. We saw the Ottawa Senators trade Erik Karlsson along with prospect Francis Perron to the San Jose Sharks. At that point in time, Karlsson was making $6.5 million, was entering the final year of his contract. Of course, later signed a mega deal for 8 years with the Sharks. Big bucks, $11 million, and it's now kind of viewed upon as being one of the most overpaid contracts in the NHL. Of course, he's gone through a lot of significant injuries. Hasn't been quite the same during his time in San Jose, but we'll discuss that here a little further. Going back to the Ottawa Senators was a variety of things, including 3 players that were on the roster at the time. One was the signing rights, and then some prospects and picks here. Of course, the first player involved here is Dylan DeMello, defenseman who went to Ottawa, had a couple of nice seasons, and was later moved. They also received Chris Tierney, of course, who played for 4 seasons for the Ottawa Senators, and then just recently left as an unrestricted free agent. They also got Rudolph Balcers, who ended up back in San Jose via waivers a while later, about a season later. Balcers, though, did have some good time in the Ottawa Senators organization, but never really panned out. They got the signing rights at the time to Josh Norris. He was still playing U.S. college hockey in Michigan, had not come out of college as of yet. But, of course, Josh Norris was already drafted as a first-round pick in 2017. They got a 2020 first-round pick, which was conditional, but of course they got to keep that pick. That pick became Tim Stützle. They also got a 2021 second-round pick, which became one of their interesting prospects they have in the organization now, Zach Ostapchuk, who's been playing in the Western Hockey League for the Vancouver Giants. 6'3", 205-pound forward, put up 26 goals last year in a shortened season. Then he had a monster playoffs, putting up 23 points in 12 games during their couple of series that he played for in the WHL. So certainly, a very interesting prospect in that regard. They also got a 2019 second-round pick, which originally belonged to the Florida Panthers, ended up in San Jose. And then, of course, at the draft in 2019, they ended up taking this pick, packaging it with another third-round pick in order to move up. So that pick that the Florida Panthers would have originally had, which went to San Jose, then to Ottawa, was pick number 44 in the draft. They combined that with a third-rounder to move up to go from 44 to 37 because they had their eye on another prospect they really wanted, and that was goaltender Mads Søgaard. Of course, also playing in Canadian junior hockey. The Danish goaltender really has a real solid future here. Had another couple of solid years in junior in the WHL, and then has since gone on to play a bit in the AHL and a couple of NHL games, but it looks really like a potential goalie of the future. And of course, like I said, Dylan DeMello, who was had a couple seasons in Ottawa as a defenseman, and then was traded to the Winnipeg Jets for a draft pick. That draft pick became Levi Muriel, who's another very interesting goaltender prospect for the Ottawa Senators. So breaking this deal down a little bit further, you get DeMello, who became Muriel as part of that trade. You got Chris Tierney and Rudy Balcers. They obviously nothing happened with them. Tierney played for 4 seasons. The first 2 were very productive for a bottom 6 guy. Sometimes getting top 6 minutes, but then the last 2 years have been very unproductive. He's had a bit of a back issue. Hasn't been the same, and just left. And now he signed a 2-way deal with Florida. Rudy Balcers is also in Florida. They lost him on waivers. So Tierney and Balcers put in some time in the organization, had some good moments, but ultimately never brought them any additional assets. Cost Josh Norris, the 2017 first rounder, had his signing rights included in this deal. Goes on to play another college season for Michigan. Then comes out, signs with Ottawa. Had a monster year in the American Hockey League, and then has made the jump to the NHL. And he just signed a monster 8-year extension with the Ottawa Senators, being their top centerman. He was on pace. If he had played all games last year, he would have had between 40 and 50 goals, and is early in his career as a bona fide number 1 centerman. So they got their top center out of this draft, or this trade. They also got Tim Stützle, the 2020 first-round pick. That pick ended up being 3rd overall. I don't think in a million years the Sharks ever imagined that would have been that high of a pick. The point here was for them to be competitive and to be making playoffs and having a chance at championships here. They were not thinking that they'd be possibly trading a pick that would end up going that high. So, of course, in the 2020 draft, the Senators had this pick here, which they got Tim Stützle, who right now is going to be a very dynamic top 6 forward for them. Maybe even the team's best player down the road. That's a real possibility. But they also had the number 5 pick of the draft, which was their own pick, where they got Jake Sanderson, who's another stud defenseman. So that draft was huge for the Ottawa Senators, and this pick was a big part of that. And like I said, they get the other 2021 second rounder, Ostapchuk, who looks like a pretty interesting prospect, but he's a ways away from really knowing what he's going to be or how much impact he'll have. And then there's the pick that they had from the 2019 draft, which they've combined and moved up to get Mads Søgaard, who they believe could be their goalie of the future. Søgaard, to me, is the reason why we've seen him move other goalies lately, like Philip Gustafsson, why they were comfortable letting Joey Decord be exposed in the expansion draft to the Seattle Kraken. This guy is by far, out of all the young goalies they've had in the system in the past few years, the best, most talented guy, and has the best odds, in my opinion, of being the goalie of the future. So then you combine that with Merilainen here, who they got in the Dylan DeMello trade, and that's their potential future goaltending tandem. I mean, it's hard to say if it'll work out that way, but that's the potential that it holds. That's how it looks right now, and that's what people are projecting. So these two guys are, two potential stud goaltenders. Not to mention you got your top 2 centermen, as well as another interesting prospect in Zach Ostapchuk. And then, like I said, you had a couple of productive years from Tierney and Balcers to boot. So this was a case of them getting really 4, maybe 5 big pieces of their future. It's not often you see a blockbuster trade involving a star player like that, where it's mainly future-based prospects and assets coming back, where they can really say that they won the deal and that they hit on all these picks and these prospects are working out. Of course, like I said, some of these prospects, we don't know exactly what they're going to be yet, but we do know their projections and how they've looked so far in their young career. We can place names with all these picks and kind of analyze things here a little bit further. So to me, I know at the time, Sens fans, myself included, even took a major deep breath and said, oh my God, what did they do? This package looks extremely underwhelming. I mean, Dylan DeMello was a 3rd-pair defenseman. Chris Tierney was a bottom 6 center. Rudy Balcers was okay. Some, interesting prospect. Maybe he'll turn out to be something. Josh Norris did not project to be a number 1 center. A lot of the scouts at the time had him pegged to be a 3rd-line player, which is why he went in the middle of the first round of the draft in his draft year in 2017 and not near the top. If you look back at that draft now, he would go much higher if teams could do a do-over if we did it like a redraft right now. So ultimately, like, his ceiling has turned out to be much higher than it was originally projected, which of course is great. Then, like I said, with the other picks, you don't know what those picks are going to be. At the time, you're thinking that first rounder in 2020, you're not thinking a guy like Tim Stützle. You're thinking you're picking probably 15 to 20 range, and you're going to get a player that's maybe 3 years out. And then, like I said, you get these other picks that look interesting as well, but like, you don't know. But they really did extremely amazing. Of course, on the other side of things, Erik Karlsson goes to San Jose, has a tough time adapting. We'll see now how he does this year now that Brent Burns has been traded. He doesn't have to share that role with Burns as being like the top right shot defenseman, getting the power play time and getting more of that premier ice time, so to speak, to be the guy which he was used to. He went from being the guy, like, not only on the blue line but on the whole team in Ottawa, to being kind of co-pilot there with Brent Burns in the back end in San Jose, and it didn't really work. He's battled his injuries. He's never put up the numbers like he used to really justify that new mega contract he signed. And to be honest, as much as Senators fans absolutely adored Erik Karlsson and were heartbroken when he was traded, I think now they can look back on his trade and say trading him, as much as that hurt at the time and upset people, it's by far the main reason why this team is in a position today that they can start to contend for playoffs and actually move forward and be a competitive team. They've taken all these pieces along with a few other high picks they've acquired along the way, and then of course those kids have all made enough progress now that we've seen them this offseason make some big additions, like trading for Alex DeBrincat, signing Claude Giroux. They're rumored to be trying to add another top four defenseman like a Jacob Chikrin. Like, if all these things come to be with what they've already done, of course, they solidified their goaltending as well with Cam Talbot coming in to work with Forsberg. So, like, a lot of things have happened. Suddenly, this team is got people's attention, and a lot of people think now that there's a good possibility they can go from this years of pain to having a shot at playoffs at least. And like, as they say, when you get into playoffs, anything can happen. And they're only going to continue to get better. The group of these players, they're all still in their early 20s and have lots of room to grow. So they can be, the Battle of Ontario can be more interesting again. The Atlantic Division will certainly be more interesting again. And this team can start moving forward towards, and hopefully, a new arena. And these kids are all going to be a huge part of it. So sometimes, like I said, usually the best player in the trade, that's usually whoever gets that player wins the deal. I think everybody said for San Jose, it was a slam dunk. They get the best player in the trade. What an acquisition by Doug Wilson and the Sharks. And now you're looking back going, oh man, like, that contract's a real albatross for them. Karlsson has not lived up to the contract. He's not the same player. And look what Ottawa has, but sometimes it takes 2, 3, 4 years before you really know, after all these picks have a chance to be used, and then you know who the players are, and then you have to see how they develop. It takes time. But this was a master class here on how you can rebuild quickly by trading a star player. Even though it didn't look like it at the time, it sure worked out that way. So let me know your thoughts on revisiting the Erik Karlsson trade to the San Jose Sharks. Obviously, a huge return now, even though it looked underwhelming at the time. Let me know your thoughts. We'll discuss in the comment section. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis. Plus, we'll be analyzing a lot of deals like this, looking back over the rest of the offseason as well. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next time.